In the late 1960s, something uncomfortable was happening in the skies over Southeast Asia. For decades, Americans believed air superiority was a given. Since World War II, U.S. fighters had dominated the air. Speed, innovation, pilot training. It all pointed in one direction: control. But Vietnam introduced a new reality. American aircraft were fast. They were powerful. They were advanced. Yet they were not invincible. Soviet-designed MiG fighters, lighter and more maneuverable than expected, exposed weaknesses in American doctrine. Long-range missile engagements didn't always work. Rules of engagement forced visual confirmation. Dogfights returned. And suddenly, dominance was no longer automatic. That realization hit hard. Not because America was losing the war in the air, but because America was not overwhelmingly winning. And for the United States Air Force, that distinction mattered, because parity was unacceptable. If you understand that mindset, stay with me, because what happened next wasn't just aircraft development. It was a national response, the moment that changed everything. In 1969, the U.S. Air Force launched the FX program. The requirement was simple in wording, absolute in ambition: build an air superiority fighter that could defeat any Soviet aircraft in existence or in development. This wasn't incremental improvement. This wasn't cost-focused compromise. This was dominance by design. The engineers at McDonnell Douglas were not told to match the enemy. They were told to overmatch. And from that mindset, the F-15 Eagle was born. Before we go further, understand this. The F-15 was not built to be multi-role. It was not built to bomb cities. It was not built to replace everything. It had one mission: own the sky. Everything else was secondary. Power is a philosophy. When the Eagle's design began taking shape, it immediately broke conventions. Twin massive engines, large wings for lift and maneuverability, a wide stance for stability at high angles of attack. But the real revolution was power. The F-15 became the first operational fighter with a thrust-to-weight ratio greater than 1. That means something extraordinary. It means the aircraft could accelerate vertically. It could climb straight up and continue gaining speed. Gravity was no longer a limitation. Think about what that means in combat. Energy is life in air warfare. Altitude is potential energy. Speed is survival. And the Eagle had both in excess. Pilots didn't just fly it. They commanded the vertical dimension in a way that adversaries simply couldn't match. Stay with me, because the first time this aircraft demonstrated that capability publicly, it sent a message across the world: radar that changed engagements. Power alone doesn't win modern air combat. Information does. The F-15 was equipped with the APG-63 radar system, a radar so advanced for its time that it fundamentally altered beyond visual range warfare. It could detect targets over 100 miles away, track multiple aircraft simultaneously, engage one while monitoring others. This mattered because Cold War doctrine assumed massive aerial engagements between NATO and Warsaw Pact forces. The side that saw first shot first, and usually won. The Eagle was built around that principle. See first, shoot first, climb away untouched. That wasn't marketing. That was engineering strategy. If you're still watching, you're beginning to understand something important. The F-15 wasn't designed around balance. It was designed around inevitability. First flight, proof of concept, July 27, 1972. The Eagle took to the sky for the first time. Test pilot Irving Burroughs pushed the throttles forward. The engines roared. And within seconds, it was clear this was different. Acceleration was violent. Climb rate was staggering. Control authority felt precise and aggressive at the same time. Pilots later described flying the Eagle as feeling 10 feet tall. Confidence matters in combat aviation, and the F-15 gave its pilots something rare: the sense that they were flying a superior machine, not hoping for it. But here's the thing: test flights are controlled environments. They don't shoot back. The real question was whether the Eagle would prove itself under pressure, and that answer would come sooner than anyone expected. But before we go there, consider the geopolitical tension of the 1970s. The Soviet Union was fielding advanced fighters like the MiG-25 and developing even more capable aircraft. The arms race wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating, which meant the Eagle's true purpose wasn't symbolic. It was strategic deterrence. When an adversary knows your aircraft outclasses theirs, calculations change, plans shift, risks increase. Sometimes wars are prevented not by weapons used, but by weapons known. The F-15 quickly became one of those weapons. And in the next part, we're going to see what happened when theory met combat reality, because numbers don't lie, and what the Eagle achieved in real engagements would redefine modern air superiority forever. If you value stories about American engineering dominance and real-world proof under fire, stay until the end of this series, because the final combat record is something no other fighter in history has matched. And we're just getting started. Design is one thing. Combat is something else entirely. Blueprints don't bleed. Pilots do. By the mid-1970s, the F-15 Eagle had entered operational service. It was fast. It was powerful. It was revolutionary. But none of that mattered until missiles were fired in anger. And interestingly, the first true combat validation of the Eagle didn't come from American pilots. It came from Israel. The first real test. In the late 1970s, tensions in the Middle East were constant. Airspace was contested. Soviet-built aircraft filled the skies, MiG-21s, MiG-23s, flown by experienced pilots trained under Soviet doctrine. These were not amateurs. They were disciplined, aggressive, and confident in their machines. But when Israeli F-15s entered the equation, the dynamic changed. The first engagements were cautious. Interceptions, radar locks, long-range positioning. Then the first missile launches, and something became immediately clear. The Eagle was seeing first, shooting first, and disengaging untouched. Enemy pilots often didn't even know they were being tracked until warning systems screamed inside their cockpits. Imagine climbing confidently into contested airspace, believing you are prepared, only to realize too late that someone else already controls the engagement geometry. That is what happened. The Eagle wasn't reacting. It was dictating. Stay with me, because the kill numbers that followed were not incremental. They were overwhelming. Energy dominance in the vertical. One of the defining moments came during close-range maneuvering engagements. A MiG pilot attempted to force a turning fight, traditionally an area where lighter aircraft could compete. The Eagle pilot didn't stay flat. He went vertical, full afterburner, nose pointed skyward, climbing aggressively. The MiG attempted to follow and bled energy. In seconds, the geometry reversed. Altitude became advantage. Advantage became firing solution. Missile away, explosion. That engagement pattern repeated itself again and again. The Eagle did not need to outturn every opponent in a horizontal circle. It owned the vertical space. And in air combat, the pilot who controls energy controls survival. By the early 1980s, Israeli F-15s had accumulated dozens of confirmed air-to-air victories. 0 losses in air combat, not parity, not slight edge, clear superiority. And the world noticed. If you're still watching, understand something crucial. This wasn't propaganda. These were verified combat records in real engagements against capable adversaries. And that reputation began to travel. The psychological shift. Air combat is not only mechanical, it is psychological. When opposing pilots begin to respect, even fear, a platform, hesitation creeps in. And hesitation at 500 knots can be fatal. Reports began circulating across the region. If it's an Eagle, be careful. If it's an Eagle, don't push too far. That shift matters, because deterrence is built not just on capability, but on belief in capability. The Eagle was building both. American combat validation. Then came the moment American pilots would prove the same standard. During the early 1990s, coalition forces prepared for one of the largest air campaigns in modern history, Operation Desert Storm. Iraq possessed a large air force, MiG-29s, MiG-25s, Mirage F-1S. On paper, formidable. But paper and reality are not the same. When the air campaign began, F-15s were tasked with one mission above all others: clear the skies. They launched into darkness, AWACS guiding them, radar sweeping, missiles armed, and within days, the results were decisive. Multiple Iraqi aircraft were shot down in beyond visual range engagements. Some attempted to flee to Iran rather than fight. Others tried to challenge the Eagles directly. None succeeded. American F-15s accounted for the majority of coalition air-to-air victories during the conflict. Again, zero losses in air-to-air combat. Think about the scale of that. Hundreds of sorties, complex coordination, electronic warfare, surface-to-air threats, fog of war, and still, not one Eagle shot down by another aircraft. That consistency is not luck. It is design meeting training meeting doctrine. And that combination is powerful. But we are not done, because what truly cements the legend of the Eagle isn't just its early victories. It's what happened over decades. Because maintaining superiority for a year is impressive. Maintaining it across generations? That's historic. If you've made it this far, stay with me. In the next part, we're going to break down the numbers, the upgrades, and the global impact of a fighter jet that forced the rest of the world to rethink air combat entirely. And the full record, when you see it laid out, explains exactly why many still say America didn't just compete in the skies. It ruled them. By the mid-1990s, something extraordinary had happened. The F-15 Eagle was no longer just another successful fighter. It had become a statistical anomaly. More than 100 confirmed air-to-air kills. Zero losses in air-to-air combat. Pause for a second and think about that in the context of military aviation history. Jets operate in chaos. Electronics fail. Pilots miscalculate. Weather interferes. Surface-to-air missiles complicate airspace. Fog of war distorts information. And yet, in every recorded aerial engagement against enemy aircraft, the Eagle walked away undefeated. That is not normal. That is structural superiority. And to understand how that happened, we need to break it down. Beyond visual range, winning before the dogfight, the Eagle was built around first look, first shot capability. Its APG-63 radar gave it reach. Its AIM-7 Sparrow and later AIM-1 20 AMRAAM missiles gave it lethal range. In Desert Storm, American F-15C pilots routinely engage Iraqi fighters before visual contact. The Iraqi aircraft often never acquired radar lock. Some never even completed defensive maneuvers before impact. Imagine the psychological weight of that. You train for years to dogfight, to maneuver, to outturn your opponent, and instead, you are removed from the sky by an enemy you never see. That is dominance at the system's level. But critics often argue, long-range kills are technology-dependent. Close combat is different. So let's talk about close combat. Within visual range, still untouchable. In multiple engagements over the decades, Eagles found themselves inside visual range. High-speed merges, contrails slicing across blue sky, missile tones screaming in helmets, and yet the outcome did not change. The Eagle's thrust-to-weight ratio allowed it to regain energy faster than most adversaries. Its large wing area allowed controlled high-angle maneuvers. Its bubble canopy gave unmatched visibility. Pilots could see more, react faster, climb harder, recover quicker. When MiG-29s attempted to challenge coalition F-15s during the Gulf War, they were met with overwhelming situational awareness and energy advantage. Again, zero defeats. If you're still watching, understand something important. Air superiority is not about one good engagement. It's about repeatability under pressure. And the Eagle delivered that consistency across decades. Variants that expanded the legend. The original F-15A evolved into the F-15C, lighter, optimized for air superiority, equipped with advanced avionics upgrades. Then came the F-15E Strike Eagle. Now, this is where the story becomes even more impressive, because the F-15E added deep strike capability, ground attack, precision bombing, while maintaining air-to-air lethality. Few aircraft in history have successfully combined those roles without compromising performance. The Strike Eagle flew long-range missions during Desert Storm, Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Heavy payloads, extended range, night operations, And still, if challenged in the air, it retained the ability to defend itself. That adaptability extended the platform's life far beyond what critics predicted in the 1970s. Many assumed it would be replaced quickly. Instead, it evolved: upgraded radars, digital avionics, advanced electronic warfare suites, modernized weapons integration. While other aircraft faded, the Eagle adapted. And adaptation is survival in military aviation, forcing the world to respond. Here's something rarely discussed outside defense circles. When one nation fields a truly dominant platform, other nations don't ignore it. They react. The consistent performance of the Eagle influenced global fighter development. New Soviet aircraft emphasized improved radar and missile capabilities. Later Western programs prioritized stealth and sensor fusion. Even the development of the F-22 Raptor was influenced by the lessons learned from the Eagle's operational success. The F-22 would take air superiority to the next level with stealth and supercruise. But the philosophical foundation, control the sky first, everything else second, was proven by the F-15. And that philosophy reshaped modern air warfare doctrine. If you've made it this far, stay with me, because in the final part, we're going to talk about legacy, about what zero defeats really means, about why, decades later, upgraded Eagles are still flying and still respected, and about why this aircraft didn't just win battles. It shaped strategic confidence. And that might be the most powerful victory of all. By the early 2000s, the numbers were already historic. Over 100 confirmed air-to-air victories, 0 losses in air-to-air combat, decades of operational deployment, multiple wars, multiple adversaries, different continents, different generations of enemy aircraft, and still, no defeat in aerial combat. The F-15 Eagle had done something no other modern fighter could claim. It remained undefeated in its primary mission. But statistics alone don't explain legacy. Legacy is about impact. And the impact of the Eagle went far beyond the cockpit, the psychological weapon. Air superiority is not just about missiles and radar. It is about mindset. When a nation fields a fighter with a flawless combat record, adversaries are forced to calculate risk differently. Imagine being tasked with intercepting an aircraft known globally for never losing an air battle. Confidence shifts, aggression becomes hesitation. And in air combat, hesitation is dangerous. Pilots rely on instinct and timing measured in seconds. A fraction of doubt can change a maneuver, and the Eagle created that doubt. It became more than a machine. It became a reputation. In military strategy, reputation is power. If you're still watching, this is where the story moves beyond engineering into influence, because the Eagle didn't just dominate enemies. It reassured allies, a symbol to allies. Nations that operated the F-15 understood what they were flying. Israel, Saudi Arabia, Japan, South Korea. Each country fielded the Eagle as a statement, a declaration of seriousness, a message of readiness. When Allied pilots took off in an F-15, they were not simply flying a fighter jet. They were flying a proven system, proven under fire, proven over time. And in global politics, proven capability stabilizes alliances. The Eagle strengthened deterrence across multiple regions. That is strategic influence measured not in explosions, but in conflicts that never escalated. Longevity in a rapidly changing era. Now consider something remarkable. The Eagle first flew in 1972. That places its origins deep in the Cold War, and yet upgraded versions still serve today. Modern F-15EX variants include advanced AESA radar, digital fly-by-wire upgrades, expanded weapons capacity, modern electronic warfare suites. In fact, the newest versions can carry more air-to-air missiles than many fifth-generation fighters. That matters, because while stealth changed the battlefield, raw payload and endurance still play critical roles. The Eagle evolved without losing its identity. Air superiority first. That consistency is rare. Many aircraft become outdated as doctrine shifts. The Eagle adapted with doctrine. It transitioned from analog to digital, from Sparrow to AMRAAM, from Cold War intercepts to modern network-centric warfare. And through all of it, the the core remain intact. When the air war, everything else follows. Some critics argue that the record exists because of favorable matchups, because of pilot training disparities, because of coalition advantages. But here's the reality. Every war includes uncertainty. Every engagement carries risk. No platform operates in perfect conditions. And yet, over decades of operations, across different theaters, against different adversaries, the Eagle never recorded a loss in air-to-air combat. That consistency across time eliminates coincidence. It reflects design philosophy, pilot training, maintenance discipline, strategic doctrine, industrial capability. It reflects a system working as intended. And that system was American, the bridge to the future. When the F-22 Raptor entered service, it carried forward the air superiority mission, stealth, supercruise, sensor fusion, but it inherited something deeper, an expectation. The expectation that American fighters do not aim for parity. They aim for control. That expectation was solidified by the Eagle. And even today, when modern aircraft deploy into contested airspace, they operate under the assumption that air superiority is achievable. That mindset didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built, engagement by engagement, sortie by sortie, victory by victory, final reflection. The story of the F-15 is not simply about a fighter jet. It is about what happens when a nation decides that second place in the sky is unacceptable. It is about learning from hard lessons, about responding with engineering excellence, about training pilots to master machines designed for superiority. Over 100 victories, 0 defeats, a record that stands untouched in modern air combat. If you made it all the way to this point, you now understand why many aviation experts still say, the Eagle didn't just defend American airspace, it defined American air power. And this is only one chapter in a much larger story of Cold War dominance. In the next video, we're going to explore a platform that changed naval warfare forever. A machine that operated beneath the ocean, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. If you value stories about American engineering, discipline, and strategic superiority, make sure you stay with this channel. Because history isn't just about what happened. It's about who shaped it. And in the skies above multiple battlefields across decades, the Eagle ruled.